Maya Chen sat in the back row of Professor Zelthrin's galactic history class, her fingers drumming nervously against the smooth surface of her datapad. The classroom was packed with students from dozens of different species, each one representing a different corner of the known galaxy. To her left sat Crix, a towering Vaxorian with scales that shimmered blue and green under the artificial lights. To her right was Pina, a small Quilix, whose fur changed colors based on her emotions. Right now it was a calm lavender, which meant she was probably daydreaming about lunch again. Maya tried to focus on the holographic display at the front of the room where Professor Zelthrin was showing images of the Great Expansion, but her mind kept wandering. She had been at Centurus Academy for almost 6 months now, and every single day felt like walking on a tightrope. One wrong move, one slip of the tongue, and everything would come crashing down. The problem was simple but dangerous. Maya was human, and in the galactic community, humans were something special. Not special in a good way that made you popular at parties. Special in the way that made governments nervous and military commanders lose sleep. Humans were the ghost stories that alien parents told their children to make them behave. They were the legends whispered in dark corners of space stations. They were the species that should have died out centuries ago, but somehow refused to quit. Nobody knew why humans were so stubborn, so adaptable, so impossible to predict. Some scientists said it was their death world origin. Earth, the human homeworld, was classified as a Class 9 hazard planet, a place where everything from the weather to the wildlife seemed designed to kill anything stupid enough to live there. Other scholars thought it was something in human psychology, some weird quirk in their brain chemistry that made them see impossible situations as challenges rather than dead ends. Whatever the reason, the galactic community had decided long ago that humans were best kept at a distance. Not banned exactly, but not welcomed either. There were strict quotas on how many humans could attend prestigious institutions like Centurus Academy. This year, that quota was 1. And Maya had won the lottery, though sometimes it felt more like a curse. To keep herself safe, Maya had done what humans did best. She adapted. She lied. She created an identity that would let her blend in. According to all official records, she was Maya Chen, a half-Tyrellian, half-Swordsian mix. Tyrellians looked almost human, just with slightly larger eyes and a bluish tint to their skin that could be explained away with makeup. Swordsians were known for being quiet and keeping to themselves, which explained why Maya never talked much about her family or background. Professor Zelthrin's voice cut through her thoughts. He was a Quilarian, which meant he looked something like a floating jellyfish with too many eyes and a voice that sounded like wind chimes in a thunderstorm. Now, students, before we break for the day, I want to remind you about the upcoming United Species Tournament. As you know, this year Centurus Academy has the honor of hosting the event. Maya sat up straighter. She had heard about the tournament, of course. It was impossible not to. For the past month, the entire academy had been buzzing with excitement. The United Species Tournament happened once every 5 years and brought together students from the top 10 academies in the galaxy. It was part athletic competition, part academic challenge, and part diplomatic exercise. Winning brought prestige not just to the individual, but to their entire species. The preliminary selection trials will begin next week, Professor Zelthrin continued. All students are encouraged to participate. Remember, this is not just about individual glory. This is about representing your people, your culture, your planet. The eyes of the galaxy will be watching. Crix leaned over and whispered to Maya, his voice a low rumble that vibrated through the desk. Are you going to try out? I heard the physical challenges this year are supposed to be brutal. Maya shook her head quickly. No way. I'm not exactly athlete material. This was a lie. Before coming to Centurus Academy, Maya had been training in 3 different martial arts and had won regional championships in track and field. But drawing attention to herself was the last thing she needed. Pina's fur shifted to an excited yellow. I'm going to try for the academic portion. They have a quantum mathematics challenge that sounds perfect for me. She looked at Maya hopefully. You should do it too. You're always top of the class in every subject. I prefer to keep a low profile, Maya said, which was perhaps the most honest thing she had said all day. The class ended, and students began filing out. Maya gathered her things slowly, waiting for the crowd to thin out. She had learned early on that it was easier to avoid awkward questions if she did not get trapped in the middle of a group. As she stood up, her datapad slipped from her hands and clattered to the floor. Before she could pick it up, Crix bent down and grabbed it. "Here you go," he said, handing it back. But as he did, his eyes caught something on the screen. Maya's heart stopped. She had forgotten to close the file she had been reading earlier, a news article from Earth about recent developments in human space exploration. The article had a large image of a human flag and the word humanity in bold letters across the top. Crix's expression changed, his scales rippling with an emotion Maya could not quite read. "You're interested in humans?" he asked carefully. Maya felt her mouth go dry. She forced herself to laugh, though it sounded hollow even to her own ears. "Just curious. They're fascinating from a historical perspective, you know. The whole Death World survivor thing." Crix nodded slowly, but his eyes held a strange intensity. "Yeah, fascinating. And terrifying. My grandfather fought in the border wars 30 years ago. He said humans were the most frightening soldiers he ever faced, not because they were stronger or faster, but because they never gave up. Ever. They would take injuries that should have killed them and keep fighting. They would turn losing battles into victories just by refusing to accept defeat." "That's just propaganda," Maya said quickly. "Every species has stories like that about their warriors." "Maybe," Crix said, but he did not sound convinced. "But my grandfather doesn't exaggerate. When he talks about humans, his scales turn gray. That only happens when he's truly afraid." He paused, studying Maya's face. "Why do you think there's only one human allowed at the academy each year?" Maya shrugged, trying to appear casual even though her heart was racing. "Politics, probably. Quotas and regulations. The usual bureaucratic nonsense." "That's what they tell us," Crix agreed. "But I've heard other theories. Some people say it's because humans are too unpredictable, that if you put too many of them together in one place, they start changing everything around them. They question rules, challenge authorities, find loopholes in systems that were supposed to be perfect. They're chaos agents, whether they mean to be or not." Pina had been listening quietly, her fur shifting to a thoughtful purple. "I heard something different. One of my professors said that the real reason is because humans are too good at everything. Not the best at any one thing, but good enough at everything. Give a human any challenge and they'll find a way to compete. It makes other species uncomfortable because it's hard to find something humans absolutely cannot do." "That sounds like an exaggeration," Maya said, desperate to change the subject. "Does it?" Crix asked. "Think about it. Humans come from a Class 9 hazard planet. By all logic, they should be specialists, evolved for one specific nightmare environment. But instead, they're generalists. They can survive in deserts, jungles, tundra, mountains, oceans. They can eat almost anything organic. They can adapt to different gravity levels faster than any other species. It's not natural." Maya wanted to argue, to defend her species without revealing herself, but she knew that would only make things worse. Instead, she glanced at her wrist communicator. "I need to get to my next class. See you both tomorrow?" She did not wait for an answer before hurrying out of the classroom. Her mind was racing. That conversation had been too close, too dangerous. She needed to be more careful about what she looked at on her datapad, what topics she showed interest in. One slip could expose everything. The corridors of Centurus Academy were like something out of a dream. The walls were made of a material that shifted colors based on the time of day, mimicking natural sunlight cycles from dozens of different planets. The floors were soft and adaptive, adjusting their firmness based on the weight and gait of whoever walked on them. Holographic displays floated everywhere, showing announcements, advertisements, and artistic installations from across the galaxy. Maya made her way to the residential wing, where students lived in pods designed to accommodate their specific environmental needs. Her own pod was configured for a standard oxygen-nitrogen atmosphere with Earth normal gravity and temperature. She had claimed it was a Terrellian preference, and no one had questioned it. As she entered her pod and the door sealed behind her, Maya finally let herself relax. She flopped down on her sleeping platform and stared at the ceiling, which was currently displaying a real-time view of the space outside the Academy. Centurus Academy was built on a massive station that orbited a neutron star, and the view was spectacular. Streaks of cosmic radiation painted colors across the darkness that no human eye had been meant to see without technological assistance. Her communicator chimed. Maya looked down and saw a message from her father back on Earth. She smiled and opened it. His face appeared in a small hologram, weather-worn and familiar. "Hey, sweetheart, just checking in. How are things going?" "Fine, Dad," Maya said, even though fine was a relative term. "Classes are good. I'm staying out of trouble." Her father laughed. "You stay out of trouble? Since when?" His expression turned more serious. "Have you thought any more about the tournament? Your mother and I have been following the news coverage. It sounds like a big deal." "It is a big deal," Maya admitted, "but I'm not participating. Too risky." "Risky how?" "You're one of the best athletes I've ever seen, and that's not just fatherly bias talking." "Dad, you know why I can't. If I compete, people will notice me. They'll start asking questions. Someone might figure out what I really am." Her father was quiet for a moment. "Maya, I understand you're scared. But you didn't fight so hard to get into that academy just to hide in the shadows. You're there to learn, yes, but you're also there to show the galaxy what humans can be. We're not monsters. We're not chaos agents or death world freaks. We're people. And sometimes the best way to show that is to stop hiding." "You're asking me to risk everything," Maya said softly. "I'm asking you to think about what you're really risking by staying invisible," her father replied. "But it's your choice, sweetheart. Whatever you decide, your mother and I will support you." After the call ended, Maya lay awake for a long time, thinking about what her father had said. She had spent 6 months being invisible, being careful, being someone she was not. And what had it accomplished? She had good grades but no real friends. She was learning but not growing. She was safe but not alive. The next morning, Maya woke early and went to the Academy's training facility. It was mostly empty at this hour, with just a few dedicated students running through their morning routines. Maya found an empty section and began stretching. She had not trained properly since arriving at the Academy, and her muscles ached with the need for movement. She started slow, going through basic forms from her martial arts training: punch, block, kick, sweep. The movements were automatic, burned into her muscle memory from years of practice. As she moved, she felt something inside her unclenching, some tight knot of fear and frustration beginning to loosen. She did not notice Crix enter the training area until he spoke. "I didn't know you trained." Maya froze, caught mid-kick. She lowered her leg slowly and turned to face him. "Just keeping in shape. Nothing serious." Crix moved closer, his large frame surprisingly graceful. "That didn't look like nothing serious. That looked like military hand-to-hand combat, level 5 if I'm not mistaken." "You must be mistaken," Maya said quickly. "I don't think I am." Crix settled into a ready stance. "Want to spar?" "I promise to go easy on you." Every instinct told Maya to refuse, to walk away, to maintain her cover. But something else was stirring inside her, something that had been suppressed for too long. "Okay," she heard herself say. but don't go too easy." They bowed to each other, a universal sign of respect among martial artists across the galaxy. Then they began. Crix moved first, a testing jab that was quick, but not particularly powerful. Maya slipped to the side easily, her body remembering lessons from 100 sparring sessions. She did not counter, just reset to her stance. Crix tried again, this time with a combination. Jab, cross, low kick. Maya blocked the first two and jumped over the kick, landing lightly on her feet. She saw surprise flicker across Crix's face. "You're faster than you look," he said. "You're bigger than you look," Maya replied. They continued, the pace gradually increasing. Crix was good, really good. His species was naturally strong, and his reach was considerable. But Maya had advantages too. She was quicker, more flexible, and she had trained against opponents of all sizes and styles. More importantly, she had that peculiar human quality that Crix's grandfather had talked about. She did not quit. Every time Crix pushed her back, she found a new angle, a new approach. Other students began to gather, watching the match. Maya was aware of them but tried not to let it distract her. She focused on Crix, on his patterns, his tells. She noticed he favored his left side slightly, that he dropped his guard just a fraction after a high kick. When the opening came, Maya took it. She ducked under Crix's punch, stepped inside his guard, and executed a perfect hip throw. Crix went down hard, his back hitting the training mat with a thud that echoed through the facility. There was a moment of absolute silence. Then Crix started laughing. He sat up, rubbing his back. "Okay, I take back what I said about going easy on you. Where did you learn to fight like that?" Maya extended a hand and helped him up. "Here and there, I've had good teachers." "No kidding." Crix looked at her with new respect. "You should definitely try out for the tournament. With skills like that, you could represent your species with honor." "We'll see," Maya said non-committally. But as she left the training facility, she could feel eyes following her. Word would spread. The quiet half-Tyrellian girl in the back of history class was not so quiet after all, and Maya was not sure if she had just made the best decision of her life or the worst. The news of Maya's sparring match with Crix spread through the academy faster than light through a wormhole. By lunchtime, at least a dozen students had approached her with questions, challenges, or simple curiosity. Maya tried to deflect most of them, but she could feel the walls she had carefully built around herself beginning to crack. Pina caught up with her in the cafeteria, her fur bright orange with excitement. "Everyone is talking about you. Crix told half the combat studies department that you're some kind of martial arts prodigy. Is it true you threw him like he weighed nothing?" "He weighs at least 300 pounds, Maya said dryly. "I definitely felt it. And I didn't throw him like he weighed nothing. I used leverage and his own momentum, basic physics." "Basic physics," Pina repeated, her fur shifting to an amused pink. "Right, because every half-Tyrellian student can casually toss around a fully grown Vaxorian warrior. Maya, this is amazing. You have to try out for the tournament now. Can you imagine what would happen if you actually competed?" Maya could imagine it very clearly, and that was precisely what terrified her. "I'm really not interested in competing. I prefer academic pursuits." "Then enter the academic portion," Pina insisted. "They have everything from quantum mechanics to xenobiology. You could dominate any of those categories." Before Maya could respond, a shadow fell across their table. She looked up to find herself facing 3 students she recognized from advanced combat theory class. The leader was a Draxian named Zeph, all sharp angles and calculating eyes. His species was known for being strategic thinkers and fierce competitors. "Maya Chen," Zeph said, his voice smooth but with an edge to it. "I've been hearing interesting things about you. They say you took down Crix in under 2 minutes." "It was a friendly sparring match," Maya said carefully. "Nothing more. Friendly or not, it was impressive." Zeph pulled out a chair and sat down without being invited. His 2 companions remained standing, looming over the table in a way that was clearly meant to intimidate. I'm putting together a team for the tournament. We need someone with your particular skills. I'm not interested, Maya said flatly. Zeph's expression did not change. Perhaps you don't understand. This is not really a request. The tournament is important to my family, to my people. We need to make a strong showing. Having you on our team would significantly improve our chances. Then I'm sorry to disappoint you, but my answer is still no. For a moment, something dangerous flickered in Zeph's eyes. Then he smiled, but it did not reach those eyes. Think about it. You have until the end of the week to change your mind. It would be unfortunate if you made the wrong choice. After Zeph and his friends left, Pina's fur had turned a dark gray, the color of fear. Maya, you need to be careful. The Draxians take the tournament very seriously. They don't like being told no. Let me worry about that, Maya said, though internally she was cursing herself. This was exactly what she had been trying to avoid. Draw attention to yourself, and suddenly everyone wants something from you. Show weakness and predators start circling. The rest of the day passed in an uncomfortable blur. Maya went to her classes but could barely concentrate. She could feel eyes on her constantly, whispers following her through the corridors. By the time evening came, she was exhausted from the constant vigilance. She decided to skip dinner and head straight to her pod. But as she approached the residential wing, she found Professor Zelthrin waiting for her. The Quilarian's many eyes fixed on her with an intensity that made her want to run. Miss Chen, Professor Zelthrin said in his wind chime voice, I was hoping we could have a conversation. Would you accompany me to my office? It was phrased as a question, but Maya knew it was really a command. Of course, Professor. They walked in silence through the Academy's administrative section. Professor Zelthrin's office was a strange place designed to accommodate his unique physiology. There was no furniture in the traditional sense, just floating platforms and holographic displays. The professor settled onto one of the platforms while Maya stood awkwardly near the door. Please, make yourself comfortable, Professor Zelthrin said, gesturing to a platform that adjusted itself into something resembling a chair. I wanted to discuss your future here at the Academy. Maya felt her stomach drop. Have I done something wrong, Professor? Wrong? No, quite the opposite. Your academic performance has been exemplary. Top marks in every subject, insightful contributions to class discussions, and now I hear you have considerable martial prowess as well. The professor's eyes swirled with an emotion Maya could not identify. You are a student of exceptional talent, Miss Chen, which naturally leads to questions. Questions? Maya repeated carefully. About your background, your training, your true nature. Professor Zelthrin floated closer. You see, I have been teaching at this academy for 40 years. I have instructed students from over 200 different species. I have become quite good at recognizing patterns, at noticing when something does not quite fit. Maya's heart was pounding so hard she was sure the professor could hear it. I don't know what you mean, Professor. Don't you? The wind chime voice was gentle but unyielding. Let me tell you what I have observed. You are listed as half Terrelian, half Sorzian, but your bone structure is wrong for a Terrelian hybrid. Your reaction times are too fast. Your recovery from physical exertion is unnaturally quick, and then there are the small things. The way you unconsciously check exits when you enter a room. The way you assess potential threats. The way you carry yourself with a readiness that speaks of extensive survival training. Many students have combat training, Maya said weakly. Indeed they do, but not like yours. Your fighting style this morning was analyzed by our security systems. It incorporated techniques from at least 7 different martial traditions, synthesized into something uniquely effective. That kind of comprehensive training is rare. It is the kind of training given to soldiers, to operatives, to individuals expected to face unknown dangers. Professor Zelthrin paused, letting his words sink in. It is the kind of training humans receive. The word hung in the air between them like a bomb waiting to explode. Maya felt frozen, unable to speak, unable to think. Every worst-case scenario she had imagined was coming true. "I am not going to report you," Professor Zelthrin said, and Maya nearly collapsed with relief. "But you need to understand the position you are in. There are already rumors circulating. Students talk, they speculate, and the tournament is going to make everything worse. If you compete, you will draw even more attention. Your performance will be scrutinized, analyzed, compared, and eventually, someone else will reach the same conclusion I have." "So what do I do?" Maya asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "That, my dear, is entirely up to you. You can continue hiding, continue pretending to be something you are not, or you can take control of the situation before it controls you." The professor's eyes swirled again. "I will support whatever decision you make, but I wanted you to understand the stakes." Maya left the professor's office feeling like she was walking through a dream. Everything felt surreal, off balance. She made it back to her pod and sealed the door behind her, then sat down heavily on her sleeping platform. Her communicator chimed. Another message from Earth, this time from her mother. Maya almost did not open it, but curiosity won out. Her mother's face appeared, warm and concerned. "Hello, honey. Your father told me about your conversation yesterday. I wanted to add my thoughts, for what they're worth. When you were little, maybe 5 or 6 years old, you asked me why humans were considered scary by other species. Do you remember what I told you?" Maya shook her head, even though her mother could not see her. "I told you that humans are scary because we survive things that should kill us, and we do it by refusing to accept that something is impossible. Other species see a wall and stop. Humans see a wall and start looking for doors or windows or ways to climb over it or dig under it or knock it down entirely. That quality has made us survivors, but it has also made us frightening to people who prefer predictability." Her mother leaned closer to the camera. "But here's what I did not tell you then, because you were too young to understand. That same quality is also what makes us valuable. The galaxy does not need more people who accept limitations. It needs people who challenge them. It needs people who ask why and what if and how can we do better. It needs humans." The message ended, and Maya sat in silence for a long time, thinking about walls and doors and the cost of staying invisible. The next morning, Maya made her decision. She went to the Academy's tournament registration office and put her name down for 3 categories: combat, academic, and endurance. The administrator, a floating orb-like being called a spheroid, seemed surprised but processed her application without comment. Word spread even faster this time. By midday, everyone knew that Maya Chen had registered for the tournament. The reactions were mixed. Some students were excited, others skeptical, and a few openly hostile. Zeph found her between classes, his expression unreadable. "I heard you registered," he said, "but not with my team. That was a mistake." "Maybe," Maya replied, "but it was my mistake to make." The preliminary trials began 3 days later. The entire academy gathered in the massive central arena, a space that could reconfigure itself to accommodate any kind of competition. Hundreds of students had registered, representing dozens of species. The energy in the arena was electric, a mixture of excitement and nervousness and competitive fire. Maya stood with the other solo competitors, watching as the first events began. The tournament was structured in stages. First came the preliminaries, which would narrow the field from hundreds to 50. Then came the academy selection, which would choose the 10 students who would represent Centurus Academy at the inter-academy competition. And finally, there would be the actual United Species tournament, where the best of the best would compete for galactic recognition. The combat trials were first. Students were paired randomly and fought in enclosed rings with adaptive floors that adjusted to prevent serious injury. Maya watched several matches, analyzing fighting styles and strategies. She saw Crix dominate his opponent with raw power. She saw a Quilix fighter use incredible speed and agility. She saw Zeph dismantle his opponent with cold, calculated precision. Then her name was called. Maya stepped into the ring, her heart racing but her mind clear. Her opponent was a krill, an insectoid species known for lightning-fast reflexes and natural armor plating. The krill fighter, a male whose name she did not catch, regarded her with multifaceted eyes that revealed nothing. The match began. The krill attacked immediately, moving with speed that was almost too fast to follow. Maya barely dodged the first strike, felt the wind of it pass her face. She could not match that speed, so she did not try. Instead, she used the human advantage. She adapted. Maya watched the krill's pattern, noted that each attack followed a similar trajectory. The krill was fast but predictable, relying on speed rather than strategy. After the fifth strike, Maya was ready. She waited until the krill committed to an attack, then moved not backward but forward, inside the creature's guard where its speed became a disadvantage. She struck 3 times in rapid succession. Solar plexus, knee joint, nerve cluster behind the neck. The krill went down, twitching but not seriously hurt. The crowd was silent for a heartbeat. Then they erupted into noise. Maya won her next 3 matches in similar fashion. She was not the strongest fighter or the fastest, but she was adaptable, observant, and relentless. She found weaknesses and exploited them. She learned from every exchange and adjusted her strategy on the fly. She did exactly what Professor Zelthrin had said humans do best. She refused to quit. By the end of the first day of trials, Maya had qualified for the Academy selection round. So had Crix, so had Zeph, and so had 47 other students. But Maya knew that people were starting to look at her differently now. The whispers had changed. They were no longer just curious. They were suspicious. That night, Maya returned to her pod exhausted, but unable to sleep. She kept replaying the matches in her mind, analyzing her own performance. She had been careful not to show too much, but she knew that careful might not be enough. Any expert watching those matches would see things that did not quite add up. The way she moved, the way she thought, the way she fought. It all pointed to a training regimen and a mindset that did not match her supposed heritage. She was still awake when her door chimed. Maya opened it to find Crix standing outside, his scales a muted blue in the corridor lighting. "Can we talk?" he asked. Maya stepped aside and let him in. Crix was too large for her pod, so he settled onto the floor while Maya sat on her sleeping platform. "You fought well today," Crix said. "Better than well, actually. You fought like someone who has trained their entire life for combat." "I've had good instruction," Maya said carefully. "From whom?" "What academy trains someone to fight like that? What species uses those techniques?" Crix looked at her directly. "Maya, I'm going to ask you a question, and I want you to know that however you answer, we're still friends. Are you human?" The question hung in the air. Maya felt 1,000 responses running through her mind, 1,000 denials and deflections and lies. But she was tired of lying. She was tired of hiding. And Crix had called her his friend. "Why do you think that?" she asked instead of answering. "Because I've been researching humans since our conversation in class. I've watched videos of human fighters, studied their tactics, read about their training methods. And everything I learned, I saw in you today. The way you adapt mid-fight, the way you turn disadvantages into advantages, the way you simply refuse to give up." Crix's scales rippled. "My grandfather was right to be afraid, but he was also wrong. Humans are not monsters. They're just survivors. Really, really stubborn survivors." Maya made her choice. "Yes, I'm human." Crix nodded slowly, as if this confirmed something he had already known. "Are you the official human student? The one allowed under the quota?" "No. I'm here under false credentials. If anyone finds out, I'll be expelled and probably arrested for fraud. Then we need to make sure no one finds out, Crix said firmly. At least not until you're ready. Why would you help me? Maya asked. You just said your grandfather is afraid of humans? My grandfather is also a wise warrior who taught me that fear of something you don't understand is just ignorance with teeth. You're not what I expected a human to be like. You're not some unstoppable war machine or chaos agent. You're just a person trying to get an education. Crix stood up. Besides, you beat me in a fair fight. That deserves respect, not betrayal. After Crix left, Maya finally fell asleep. But her rest was short-lived. At dawn, her communicator began buzzing frantically. She woke up and checked it, then felt her blood run cold. Someone had posted an analysis of her tournament fights on the Academy's public network. The analysis was detailed, technical, and damning. It laid out, point by point, how her fighting style matched human combat doctrines. It compared her physical capabilities to known human baselines. It raised questions about her supposed Tyrellian-Sorzian heritage. The post had been viewed over 10,000 times, and it was still spreading. Maya stared at the analysis post, her hands shaking. The author was listed as anonymous, but she had a pretty good idea who might be behind it. Zeph had warned her that refusing his team would be a mistake. This felt like retaliation. She got dressed quickly and headed to the cafeteria, hoping to get breakfast before facing whatever storm was coming. But the moment she stepped into the corridor, she knew it was too late. Students were everywhere, and they all stopped talking when they saw her. The silence was deafening. Maya kept walking, holding her head high. She would not run. She would not hide. She had made the choice to compete, and now she would face the consequences. In the cafeteria, Pina was waiting at their usual table. Her fur was cycling through colors rapidly, a sign of extreme stress. Maya! Have you seen the post? Everyone is talking about it. They're saying you might be human. I know, Maya said quietly, sitting down. Is it true? Pina asked, her voice dropping to a whisper. Maya looked at her friend, this small alien who had never been anything but kind to her. She thought about lying again, about denying everything. But what was the point? The truth was coming out whether she liked it or not. Better to control how it came out. Yes, Maya said simply. I'm human. Pina's fur turned white, every color draining from it at once. Oh my. Wow. That's actually really scary, Maya, no offense. None taken. I understand why humans have the reputation we do. But you're not scary, Pina said, her fur gradually returning to color, settling on a confused purple. You're my friend. You help me with homework. You listen when I talk about my family. You're just normal. That's what I've been trying to tell people. But it's hard when everyone already has ideas about what humans are supposed to be like. Before they could continue the conversation, Professor Zelthrin appeared at their table. His many eyes were swirling rapidly, which Maya had learned meant he was agitated. Miss Chen, I need you to come with me immediately. The headmaster wants to see you. Maya felt her stomach sink. This was it then. She was going to be expelled, possibly arrested. All her dreams of finishing her education, of proving that humans could be more than their reputation, were about to end. The walk to the headmaster's office felt like a march to execution. Professor Zelthrin did not speak, and Maya did not ask questions. When they arrived, she found that they were not alone. Crix was already there, along with Zeph and 3 other students she did not recognize, and sitting behind the massive desk was Headmaster Vorn, a crystalline whose body was literally made of living crystal that refracted light in dizzying patterns. Miss Chen, Headmaster Vorn said, his voice like glass bells ringing. Please, sit. We have much to discuss. Maya sat in the chair indicated, very aware that all eyes were on her. Headmaster Vorn touched his desk, and a holographic display appeared showing the anonymous analysis post. I assume you have seen this? The headmaster asked. Yes, sir. And is it accurate? Are you human? Maya took a deep breath. This was the moment. No more hiding, no more lies. Yes, headmaster, I am human. My name is Maya Chen, and I submitted false credentials to gain admission to this academy. I understand that this is grounds for expulsion and legal action. I take full responsibility for my deception. Headmaster Vorn was quiet for a moment, his crystalline body refracting rainbow patterns across the walls. You are aware of the quota system regarding human students? Yes, sir. 1 human student per year, selected through official channels. I did not go through those channels. Indeed, which raises the question of why. Humans have access to many excellent educational institutions on Earth and on human colony worlds. Why risk everything to come here? Maya had prepared for this question, but she had prepared politician answers, safe answers. Now, facing the possibility of losing everything, she decided to tell the truth instead. Because human institutions can only teach me how to be human. I wanted to learn how to be part of something bigger. The galaxy is vast and full of different peoples, different perspectives, different ways of thinking. Humans are isolated, by choice and by reputation. We're seen as dangerous, unpredictable, threatening. And maybe some of that is earned. But it does not have to be permanent. She looked around the room, meeting the eyes of each person present. I came here because I wanted to prove that humans can learn, can adapt, can work alongside other species without causing chaos or conflict. I wanted to show that we're not monsters. We're just people who refuse to give up, even when the odds are against us. And yes, I lied to get here. I'm not proud of that. But I'm not sorry I tried. The silence that followed her words was heavy. Then Zeph spoke up, his voice cold. A nice speech. But it does not change the fact that she broke the law. She falsified documents, lied to academy officials, and took a spot that should have gone to a legitimate student. She should be expelled and prosecuted. I agree she broke the law, Crick said, his scales turning a deep, defensive blue. But intent matters. She did not come here to hurt anyone or cause trouble. She came to learn, and she has learned. She's one of the top students academically, she's shown exceptional skill in combat trials, and she's been a good citizen of this academy. Doesn't that count for something? It counts for nothing if we simply ignore the rules whenever someone has a good excuse, Zeph countered. The quota exists for a reason. Humans are unpredictable, potentially dangerous. Allowing them unrestricted access to our institutions and our knowledge is a security risk. Then maybe the quota is the problem, said one of the other students, a tall luminarian named Kess. We're treating an entire species like they're criminals just because they're different from us. How is that fair? How is that just? It's about safety, Zeph insisted. About protecting the galactic community from a species that has proven itself to be volatile and aggressive. We've all proven ourselves volatile and aggressive at some point, Crix shot back. The border wars were not started by humans. They were started by territorial disputes between the Draxian Empire and the Vaxorian Confederacy. Humans just happened to be in the middle. And yes, they fought back. Would you expect any species not to defend itself? The argument was escalating, voices rising, when Headmaster Vorn raised one crystalline hand. Instantly, everyone fell silent. Enough, the headmaster said. This is not a debate forum. Miss Chen, you have admitted to falsifying credentials and violating academy regulations. Under normal circumstances, expulsion would be immediate. However, these are not normal circumstances. The United Species Tournament begins in 1 week, and you have already advanced to the Academy selection round. Your performance has been remarkable, and many students and faculty have expressed interest in seeing you compete. He paused, light dancing through his crystalline form. I have spoken with the Galactic Education Council. They have agreed to a compromise. You will be allowed to remain at the academy and compete in the tournament. However, your true identity will be made public. You will compete not as Maya Chen, half Tyrellian, but as Maya Chen, human. Your performance will be watched closely by the entire galaxy. And after the tournament, your case will be reviewed to determine if you will be permitted to complete your education here or if you will be expelled. Maya felt dizzy with relief and terror in equal measure. Thank you, Headmaster. I understand. I wonder if you do, Headmaster Vorn said softly. You will be under more scrutiny than any student in the history of this academy. Every action, every word, every decision will be analyzed and judged. You will be representing not just yourself, but your entire species. That is a heavy burden for one person. Humans are used to heavy burdens, Maya said. We carry them anyway. The meeting ended, and Maya walked out of the office in a daze. Crix fell into step beside her. Well, that could have gone worse. Could it have? Maya asked. Now everyone will know what I am. All the fear, all the suspicion, all the hatred that people have for humans, they're going to direct it at me. Probably, Crix agreed cheerfully. But you'll also have allies, people who are tired of the old prejudices, who want to see change, people like me. Why are you helping me? Maya asked. You barely know me. Crix's scales rippled, and what Maya had learned was amusement. My grandfather told me something once. He said that fear is useful for keeping you alive, but terrible for helping you live. I've been afraid of humans my whole life because of stories, because of reputation. But then I met you, and you're just a person. Maybe a stubborn, slightly terrifying person, but still just a person. And I think it's time I stopped being afraid and started being curious instead. The announcement went out that afternoon. A formal message from Headmaster Vorn to the entire academy, explaining that one of their students had been revealed to be human, that she had falsified credentials, and that she would be allowed to compete in the tournament before facing review. The message stressed that Maya Chen was to be treated with the same respect as any other student, and that harassment or violence would not be tolerated. The reaction was immediate and intense. The Academy's network exploded with discussion. Some students were outraged that Maya had been allowed to stay. Others were excited about having a real human competitor in the tournament. Still others were simply terrified. Maya tried to go about her normal routine, attending classes and studying. But normal no longer existed. In every class, she was the center of attention. Some professors called on her constantly, testing her knowledge. Others ignored her completely, as if she were invisible. Students either avoided her or tried to get close to her, to study her, to understand what made a human different. The worst part was the fear. Maya could see it in the way people looked at her, the way they kept their distance, the way they watched her every move as if expecting her to suddenly become violent. She wanted to scream at them that she was the same person she had been yesterday, that nothing had changed except their knowledge of what she was. But she knew that was not quite true. Everything had changed. She was no longer hiding, no longer pretending. For better or worse, she was now visible. The Academy selection trials began 4 days later. The field had been narrowed to 50 students, and only 10 would be chosen to represent Centurus Academy at the Inter-Academy tournament. The trials would test every aspect of a student's abilities, combat, academics, strategy, endurance, teamwork, and adaptability. Maya had prepared as much as she could, but she knew that preparation would only go so far. This was not just about skill or knowledge anymore. This was about proving that a human belonged here, that she could compete alongside the best students from across the galaxy without causing chaos or proving every stereotype true. The first trial was academic. Students were given complex problems covering multiple disciplines and had to solve them within a strict time limit. Maya found herself working next to a Quilix mathematician and across from a Draxian engineer. The problems were brutally difficult, requiring not just knowledge, but creative thinking. One problem particularly stumped her. It involved quantum mechanics and spatial geometry, two fields that did not normally overlap. She stared at the equations, trying to find the connection, the hidden pattern. Then she remembered something her physics professor on Earth had once said about how humans approached scientific problems. They did not just follow established paths. They made new ones. Maya threw out the standard approaches and started from scratch, building her own framework based on first principles. It was risky, unorthodox, and probably wrong, but it was her own thinking, human thinking. She finished the calculation and submitted her answer just as time expired. 3 days later, the results were posted. Maya had scored in the top 5. But more importantly, her solution to the quantum geometry problem had been flagged by the judges as highly innovative. Several professors wanted to study her approach. The combat trials were next. This time, the matches were more complex. Students had to fight in teams, adapting to partners they had never worked with before. Maya found herself paired with a Luminarian scout and a Krill heavy fighter. They had 15 minutes to develop a strategy before facing a team of experienced competitors. The match was chaos. Her teammates had different fighting styles, different instincts, different communication patterns. But Maya had trained for this. She had grown up on Earth, learning to adapt to any situation, any opponent. She watched her teammates, learned their patterns within seconds, and adjusted her own approach to complement theirs. They won their match. And the next one. And the next. By the end of the combat trials, Maya's team had advanced to the finals. But Maya was exhausted, running on adrenaline and stubbornness. She had a deep bruise on her ribs from a Vaxorian's punch, and her left shoulder ached from being thrown into a wall. But she was still standing, still fighting. The final trial was endurance. Students had to complete a brutal obstacle course designed to push every species to their absolute limits. The course adapted to each participant, becoming harder or easier based on their species' natural abilities. For Maya, the course was designed to exploit human weaknesses: thin atmosphere, extreme heat, unstable terrain. She started strong, pushing through the first several obstacles with determination. But halfway through, her muscles began screaming in protest. Her lungs burned from the thin air. Her skin felt like it was on fire from the heat. Every instinct told her to stop, to quit, to accept that she had done enough. But humans did not quit. That was the point, the thing that made them both feared and respected. They pushed past pain, past exhaustion, past reason itself. They found something deep inside, some stubborn core of will, and they used it to keep moving when stopping would be so much easier. Maya finished the course dead last. She collapsed across the finish line and could not stand for several minutes. Medical personnel rushed to her side, checking her vital signs, offering assistance, but she waved them away. "I finished," she gasped. "That's what matters." The final results were announced that evening. 10 students had been selected to represent Centurus Academy at the United Species Tournament. Maya Chen was one of them. The academy erupted in celebration for some, controversy for others. Maya found herself surrounded by reporters, by students asking for interviews, by officials wanting statements. It was overwhelming, suffocating. She escaped to her pod and sealed the door, finally allowing herself to break down. She had done it. She had proven that a human could compete, could succeed, could earn a place among the best. But at what cost? She was now the most visible human in the galaxy, a target for every prejudice and fear that existed about her species. Her communicator chimed. Her parents were calling. Maya answered, and her father's proud face filled the screen. "We've been watching the broadcasts," he said, his voice thick with emotion. "Sweetie, you were amazing. The whole world is talking about you. The whole galaxy." "I'm scared, Dad," Maya admitted. "What if I fail? What if I prove them all right that humans don't belong?" "Then you fail," her mother said, joining her father on the screen. "But you failed trying, which is more than most people can say. Maya, you've already succeeded in the most important way. You showed the galaxy that humans are not monsters or myths. We're people with dreams and fears and determination. That's worth everything." After the call ended, Maya sat in silence for a long time. Then she pulled up the Academy's public network and started reading messages. There were thousands of them. Some were hateful, threatening, full of the old prejudices, but others were different. A Quilix student wrote about how Maya's mathematical solution had inspired her to think differently about her own work. A Vaxorian first year wrote about how seeing Maya fight had made him realize that size and strength were not everything. A Terrellian professor wrote about how Maya's presence had started important conversations about bias and inclusion in the Academy, and there, buried among thousands of other messages, was one from Pina. Just 3 words, but they meant everything. "Proud of you." Maya smiled despite her exhaustion. The United Species tournament would begin in 3 days. She would face competitors from the 9 other top academies in the galaxy. She would be scrutinized, judged, tested in ways she could not yet imagine. The pressure would be immense, the expectations impossible. But she was human, and humans specialized in doing impossible things. 3 days later, Maya stood in the staging area of the main arena, surrounded by the other 9 students representing Centurus Academy. The arena was packed with thousands of spectators from across the galaxy. Holographic cameras floated everywhere, broadcasting the event to billions of viewers on hundreds of planets. An announcer's voice boomed across the arena, introducing each academy and their representatives. When Centurus Academy was called, Maya and her teammates walked out onto the arena floor. The crowd's reaction was deafening, a mix of cheers and boos that washed over her like a wave. "And representing Centurus Academy in multiple categories," the announcer said, his voice carrying to every corner of the arena and beyond. "Please welcome Crix of Vaxoria, Pina of Quilix Prime, Zeph of Draxos, and making galactic history as the first human to openly compete in the United Species tournament, Maya Chen of Earth." The arena exploded with noise. Maya looked up at the thousands of faces, at the cameras broadcasting her image across the galaxy. She thought about her parents watching from Earth, about Professor Zelthrin, who had given her a chance, about Crix, who had become her friend despite his fear, about every human who had been judged unfairly because of their species. She thought about walls and doors, about hiding and revealing, about the cost of safety and the price of truth. Then Maya Chen smiled, raised her hand to the crowd, and prepared to show the galaxy exactly what humans were made of.